Hello, my name is Jorge Barrero, and I'm going to be taking you through some of the basics of V-Ray for SketchUp. If this is the first time you've used V-Ray, and I will give you a small overview of some of the settings that I typically use, but also I want to go over how V-Ray for SketchUp is integrated into SketchUp itself. So what I have is a fairly simple scene here. I just have one object. Um, One of the things that after you install Vero for SketchUp, you will notice the toolbar. Looks pretty much like this. You have your materials, render options, frame buffer, the render button, the ASGVIS website, Omni lights, rectangular lights, highly tessellated sphere for testing, and an infinite plane. So right out of the box, what I'm going to do is I just have a simple object here. I'm going to hit render to see what we get, and we'll go from there. So this is the default rendering, and as you can see, there's a couple things we can note. There's general lighting in our object. Looks like some sort of sunlight on it. However, there's no ground floor, and there's also no background. So what I'm going to first do is I'm going to start at the render options and change a few things to kind of show you how V-Ray for SketchUp works with SketchUp here. So I'm going to close this, and I'll be making my render window a little bit bigger too, so we can see the renderings a little bit better. I'm going to open up the render options, and there's several tabs. One of the first ones I'll go to is the global switches. Here, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off default lights. That way, only the general lighting that I pick is going to be rendered. Also, if and when I put lights on their layers, I'm going to uncheck hidden lights. That way, if I turn them off, they will also won't render when I don't want them to. So I'm going to close that. One of the things that the black background and sort of the general lighting in SketchUp is driven under the environment tab. You can see right now GI skylight is turned on by default. However, the intensity is only at half, and you can see the small m to the right indicating there's no general overriding map or setting for that GI skylight. So the general lighting for this is completely white based on this color. One of the things that's very useful within V-Ray for SketchUp is the addition of the V-Ray physical sky and physical camera. V-Ray for SketchUp uses the shadow information from SketchUp itself to determine the position of the sun by default. And for that, it's actually pretty useful to use the V-Ray physical sun as the main light source. So in particular for architectural visualization, I find it relatively easy to use, so that's one of the things I'm going to set up here. I'm going to change my intensity to 1, but most importantly, I'm going to click on the small m here to the right, and I'm going to get the V-Ray texture editor. Here under type is none is selected as the map, and I'm actually going to select sky there. I'm going to leave the defaults as they are for now. We can come back to those in a little bit later on. So now my GI skylight is going to be the physical sky. My background, I'm going to have to change that, because if I render right now, and I'll hit render really quick so you can see the results. The lighting, see now the lighting changed. My chair is completely overexposed, but that's okay, and that's expected because now I'm using the physical sky as the lighting, but my background is still black, so I need to change that. So I'm going to click on the small m under background, and I'm going to select the physical sky as well, hit apply. It will render this again, and now the entire scene is completely overexposed. If I switch to my alpha channel, you can see my chair still there. It just can't be seen right now, so that is working fine. The other things that I can run through quickly here will have to be the camera itself. Because we are using the physical sky and sun, I'm going to have to turn on my physical camera, which then will let me correctly set the exposure for my rendering. I'm going to switch my phone speed to 100, My shutter speed, I will leave at 300 for now. I'm going to change under my output size, just a slightly larger image. I'll go to 640 by 480. I can close this. Last but not least, because I have no ground, I'm actually going to add an V-Ray infinite plane, just a small one here, so that I can render my entire scene as a base. And just out of habit, I'm going to reverse this face. There we go. So now I'm going to zoom in a little, hit render, and we can see the results pretty quickly here. So right off the bat, we can tell we have a sky background that we set up with our V-Ray physical sky. We have an infinite plane that we set up for our ground, and our chair, it's nicely lit by the physical sun and physical sky. The shadow information, or essentially the sun location, is coming directly from SketchUp's own shadow settings here. So you can see if I pan this over, and I will do another rendering. This is a quick test here. You'll be able to compare the shadow locations of both, and you can see how the V-Ray physical sun can be controlled using the SketchUp shadow slider and shadow position. You can, if I slide that over, you can see the shadows are identical, and now when I move the shadow locations here, essentially the sun position here in SketchUp, and I re-render, we'll notice the location also changed automatically here. So that is one of the things that is important to note, that even though we can override this by default, this is set to be the case for the physical sun. And we can get a good quick setup for some exterior renderings.